through an example of how our bot framework can create a new and a better user experience in Noel.
Thank you for having me, Harry, and thank you guys for being here. It's my pleasure today to introduce you to Litware Lifestyle. This is a retailer, a brick and mortar retailer, that is trying to build a next generation customer experience for both their online and their physical stores. So you can already see on the site, if I scroll down a little bit, that there is a recommendations engine running here, right? So it's already using information about my purchase history, profile data, maybe some survey information to identify products that I might like. And you, using Azure ML, can build models just like this one. You'll also notice, just like Harry was saying, that there's a bot introduced in order to ease the friction of a customer when they're on the site. And we want to enable you and customers coming to sites using your bots to be able to use or talk to it any way they want to. For example, I might speak in Spanish, right? And say, hey, what do you sell? Or I might speak maybe in English. I'm from Miami, so I kind of switch back and forth between the two, right? So if I say, I want a new watch, notice what happens. The bot's able to actually respond back to me in the language that I want to speak in. Now, you'll also notice what happened to the page. So in addition to translation, which is powered by our language understanding cognitive service, it's also able to identify intent. So you'll see here I typed in, I want a new watch, and it used the word watch. It knew that watch was the most important thing and was able to generate a page that showed me smartwatches. I had to take mine off, but normally I have one, so it's a pretty good understanding of what I would usually want to buy. However, today, I actually don't want that because I got a wedding and I want to buy a fancy watch. So instead, I need to tell it a kind of watch I do want. Now, yeah, sure, I could make a user type in all of the things like whatever, round, like I don't even know, I don't shop, like I don't want to do that. I'd rather just find a picture that I like and use that instead. So why don't I do that? So I can now say, hey, do you know a picture? Were you like looking around? Did you find one you like? Give us that picture. And now we can use another cognitive service, custom vision, and a feature of custom vision, object detection, to not only take in that image, identify the object, in this case a watch, and extract that object. You'll see it up there in the upper left-hand corner. Then I can hand it off to Bing Visual Search, and it will look through the Litware product catalog and show me a few results. But then I can even delight the customer even more, right? Build some trust and provide a series of options that are across the web, right? Pretty delightful. And I'm like, oh, actually, thanks for showing me your competitors. That's so nice, but I do like this one. Why do I like it? Because it's called, you can't see it, I'll minimize it so you can see it, Manhattan. And I'm from Manhattan. I was born there, right? Yo, all right. It's my friends over here. So I'm going to choose this one. However, being from Manhattan, I like to make sure I understand the return policy. So let me check about that. Right, so what's the return policy? It says, oh, great, you got 7 days to return it. That's probably good, except I travel all the time for work, so I just want to know what happens if I need a little bit more time. In this case, right, I'll say, okay, great. But that's not interesting, right? What is interesting about this, and notice this, is that I, in the very first part, right, asked very specifically about the return policy. But in the second question, not so much. So what's interesting about that is you can use another cognitive service that actually is GA today, Q&A Maker, to build and maintain interactions just like these. And you no longer need an expert development staff to do it, right? It's able to understand the intent of that first question without me having to do that. I've worked on the non-Q&A version of this, and it's a really hard problem to solve, so this is pretty exciting. All right, so now, I've got the return policy, feeling pretty good about that, but I have 4 kids, so if there's a chance I could get out of the house and say, hey, I gotta go try this puppy on, I'm gonna do that. So let me go and ask. Now what's gonna happen here, and I'm gonna actually leverage a few services to do this, so stay with me. The first one is I'm gonna use the Microsoft Graph API. We're gonna check all right, which is a knowledge graph. We're just going to check not only for all associates, but we're also going to check for experts specific to the product that I'm looking at. Then I'm going to check their availability. I'll leverage Azure location-based services to make sure that the time zone and the location is correct. So you can see here, right, it went through and searched through 1,300 associates. It then grabbed the ones that were experts and then even identified a close store. Perfect. Is that okay? Seems fine. I would have even taken a longer drive if I could. Oops, sorry. So now it's going to check my calendar and their calendar, right? Or specifically the availability of those using that graph knowledge API, and then say to me, what the? Like I didn't say anything or touch anything. I love AI. So it presented to me a bunch of different options, right? You'll notice it presented, even at the top, I think it said 8 to 9 a.m. Is tough traffic time. Right, so what I will do is say, yeah, sure, I'm interested. I don't want to drive when it's, the last one that I used was Maps distance, or Bing Maps distance matrix. Because not only do I want to provide a list of close stores, but I also want to make the route frictionless, right? Make sure I identify traffic, just make it super easy for the customer to get where they're going. All right, so I'm going to choose 11 o'clock. Now it's going to go through the process of actually creating that appointment. Great, thank you very much. And then it's going to ask me a very interesting question. Take a selfie, because people love to do that, right? I know I do. And why is it going to do that? Because later, in just a couple seconds, we're going to enter the store, and we want the store to be able to recognize the user. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Oh, there I am. Well, okay, I'm sorry. So exciting. Okay, I totally think they'll know who I am. That's awesome. Please tweet that to me. So cool. So now, once that happens, it says, great, here's an interactive map, be on your way. And I say, happily will do so, leave my husband with the kiddos, and I'm out to the store. Now I enter into the store, and I'm going to need, or as I walk in, I start to see some of the advertising that is showing up. Maybe in a big kiosk, right? You've been to the mall and they have these kind of big kiosks with rolling ads. And I come in, but now something interesting is gonna happen. I'm gonna walk up to that advertisement and there's a camera that's gonna look at me. It's then going to identify who I am. And as that happens, it's going to say, oh, you're female. Oh, your age range is this. Oh, you have purple shoes on, and it seems like you like this brand, right? We can identify brands through object detection. So now it can change that advertising as I'm looking at the kiosk to be relative to what I'm actually wearing right then. Apparently, sweatpants and a t-shirt or something, right? Now I have a reason for being here, right? I'm actually here to communicate to someone about my watch.
Hi, Noel. How can I help you today?
So what just happened here, right? It used, because there's a camera, it used Face API to identify who I was, right? Yeah, I probably wanted to walk in doing this, but it figured it out. And then once it had that information, it was able to personalize a greeting to me. Now what was special about this is the voice. The voice was created using one of our new services, the speech service, in order to create a custom voice for the business, which all of you may have an opportunity to do for your organizations. Now, it's not enough for us to be able to just hear the bot talk to me in a kiosk. I also want to be able to talk back. I'm here to try on a watch.
Great. Alice is ready to help you. Follow the map to the jewelry department.
So now it was able to use Bing Speech, right? I went in, took that audio, used the speech-to-text APIs to turn it into text so that my application could do something with it. In this case, it was able to identify a map and then even interlay that advertising right on top of it, custom to what I was maybe wearing that day. That's pretty cool. Now I'm headed off on my own way, but before I do that, I just want to mention a couple other things, right? One thing you could do is, notice I hit a microphone button to speak. Oftentimes, the acoustic environment for bots can be a little tricky to play with if you're a developer and familiar with that. So we now have the ability for you to build in your own custom acoustic models. On top of that, you can even add in, which Harry mentioned earlier, the ability to create a custom language, right? Add to the default language model and add things like brand names, product names, service names, giving your store or your customer the ability to communicate in a natural way. So now I'm headed over to the store. The best thing we could do is equip the sales associate with as much information as possible. So let's head over and see what that looks like. You can imagine the associate on, walking around with a Surface, and they get a ping going, hey, Noelle's in the house. And they see me, they see I'm a gold member, they realize they should take care of me, so they rush over. But before rushing over, Alice wants to learn as much about me as possible. Right? So now we can use a product like Dynamics 365 to synthesize as much data into a single view as we can to be meaningful for that associate. So you can see we take the calendar information, my profile information, why I'm there, information, oh yes, most importantly, from our recommendations engine or model so that we can make sure we're enabling Alice to not only close the sale, but then even upsell, right, the customer. So you can see with Microsoft AI and intelligent retail, right? We have enabled the customer and the sales associate to have the best experience possible. Now I know you're probably interested in the details on the bot, so we're gonna actually do that in just a few minutes. But first, I'd like to hand it back to Harry.
I love this intelligent shopping scenario. I hope you are just as convinced as I am. The bots are now